conference.opensimulator.org and tweet your questions or comments to @OpenSimCC with the hashtag OSCC15. This hour, we're happy to introduce the terrific session called Predator and Prey, Exploring the OpenSim with Middle School Students. Our speaker today, Mary Stockrocky. Dr. Mary Stockrocky is a Professor of Art and Art Education Area Coordinator, Arizona State University, Taiwan Fulbright Scholar 2012, and Work Bank Consultant to Turkey 1995 to 97. The former Vice President and World Councillor of the International Society for Education Through Art, 8 years, and President of the United States Society for Education Through Art and its webmaster for 10 years. The National Art Education Association published her book in 2014, Exploration in Virtual Worlds, New Digital Multimedia Literacy Investigations for Art Education. Welcome all, let's begin the session.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Thank you for coming to my presentation on exploring and creating the desert ecology on the OpenSim. I usually teach on Second Life, digital ethnography, for 6 years now, and I'm part of the New Media Consortium. This is some of my research with some of the local middle school kids, and I'll show you what we discovered together using action research. We're exploring the idea of creativity and placemaking. Now, creativity is usually regarded as free expression, but here I'm trying to use it as empowering problem solving. And it's also a social process as well. Using an ecological metaphor, I believe that creativity has a lot to do with linking and making connections and exploring the ecology of a place. Now, my site on the OpenSim is sponsored by the University of British Columbia. It's a private site under the direction of Dr. Sandrine Han. And we all know the OpenSim is one of the virtual worlds, and it has a lot to do with just a gamification approach. We all know that ecology is the study of environmental issues and ecosystems. It's a web of interconnected ingredients. If you make a change in one place, you also make a change in another. Now, action research is a lot of fun because it has a lot to do with exploring a phenomena like a virtual world, and it involves continually trying to improve it. And I do this with the students, so I am one of the major students as well. We do a lot of data collection, pre and post questionnaires, student interviews, and of course, daily note-taking. Then we go into content analysis, which is my job, looking for frequent words. And then later we compare results with other studies to generate insights for the future. And we all know a lot about gamification. We know this is not a game, but because they use avatars, role-playing, there's a lot of that going on. And the idea of a spiral curriculum, which you can see above. Okay. The The school that I do research with is a local school here in Arizona. It's called the Sonoran Desert School in real life. It's in the foothills of the Superstition Mountains. It's a gorgeous area. And not far from Apache Junction and also the Apache Reservation. It's a small contract school, and there's features students from fifth grade to high school. And I ran this workshop for 2 hours per day for 4 days, the last week of school. Now, this is the second year. The first year was the same thing, a 4-day experiment with 6 students who volunteered to explore the desert problems with me. And because they had no background in virtual worlds, they drew their characters in real life with cartoons, and I uploaded them up onto the OpenSim. And this is part of their installation they did with me. Now I'm the queen bee up there, and here's some of the problems that we were exploring together. Now the second year, which we just enjoyed, the same kid, 3 of the same kids worked with me, which is nice. 3 boys and 3 girls. And one of the students was Afro-American. He was new. And they chose their own avatar roles and their own animals. Of course, the first rule with working with the kids is to help each other. The pre-questionnaire, same one I used last time, involved the questions like, what is ecology? And some of them remembered the answers. The study of the earth. Not that that is correct, but that's what the kids said. What's a desert, right? Half the students remembered that it was a dry and hot place, but only one student remembered that it gets 13 inches of rain. And this is the one that was really funny. What desert do you live in? And some of them didn't remember. It's the name of their school, Sonoran Desert School. They did learn how to take care of these animals, and number 1 is leave them alone. Here's some of the lessons we went through. Of course, in the beginning, they have to learn how to navigate. Then they explore the 3D building tools. They had to learn to link their different shapes or forms together. That was the hardest part, you know, because kids don't use 2 hands anymore. So I had to tell them, use your left finger on shift and your right finger to hit the prim shape. To make their own nests or home, they use the dome tool in building. And then they learned how to twist the shape, hollow it out, taper it, and add their texture. They experimented with lighting. They really liked this, setting the sun position in that idea of glow. That's why the pictures glow so much under the world on the top menu. They used the simplest animation, wind, and when an avatar flies by, all the appendages move, which is a lot of fun. They titled the creatures and they wrote a communal story. And at the end, oh boy, they had a great time talking to Dr. Biology. Okay, now I provided them a model. I met one of the students in the summer, and he made this gigantic rabbit. So they always had the model to look at. It's really nice when you provide them models. Now, some of the findings, we learned that Jacob took the role, one of the students. He was only 13 years old, and he helped demonstrate a lot of these tools, and he also worked with these kids, his colleagues, using the building tools. Here he made his own rat and nest out of 2 domes shapes. They used the Sculpting. Second Life didn't have that at the time, and now this Sculpting prim is great. They can make shapes that are more organic, as you can see, and that was a lot of fun. Again, I provided this model for the kids to look at. Here's another student who worked with Batty, and Batty dives and soars after the bugs that glow at night. Now this little, it's almost like a poem they made later. It consisted of one line from each student, became a reflection. Now some kids used gigantic glowing eyes and uploaded the wings. And it didn't matter if they matched, it just worked well. Only 3 students made nests. Now this young lady had a lot of trouble. She was frustrated through the whole event, but later when she saw those legs flying in the air, she really got interested. She called her creature Giganta Tarantula, scurries and crawls around the desert floor. And she really did learn patience, problem solving, and perseverance. Here's another girl who called her creation Tittle Turtle. Now, people don't usually regard turtles, and there's no turtles in the desert. They're called tortoises, she learned. Sometimes people call them pests, but no, the turtles usually forage after the pests that become prey. It's the tortoise that's in the desert. So they learn that new name. There's not much difference. Now here's one of the students. He called his creature Bluto the beetle. He creeps along the desert floor singing the blues. Now they were frustrated with putting eyes on these faces, and we were running out of time. So I told them to look on the internet for animal faces, and they uploaded them as textures, and we put them on a kind of an easel box and mounted them, and they were a lot more fun. This is a wolf, but it looks great. The kid really enjoyed it. Another young lady made Owlie. She's warning her friends, beware of Ratty because he's on the prowl. This is the climax. I didn't mean to scare you, Ratty. Let's be friends. And look at how that glows. So what do we learn? What did the kids learn? We all learned together. Yes, it's frustrating, the technical problems. And would you believe the internet was not working and shut down on the last day? Well, that means that's more work for me to do later. Students were anxious about linking those parts. And one of the girls said, oh, this is hard work. Another student lost his rabbit, and we found it in the trash later. They all learned to check the feature bright that glows at night. We couldn't communicate via chat due to the internet lag. That's for the future. And would you believe the boys kept on losing their clothes? And at first I thought they were fooling around, but they actually were having problems. On their post questionnaire, the students told me a lot, again, about technical problems. They learned to help each other, community support. They had to learn to follow the ecological, the environmental rules, even on the OpenSim. They can't go flying off to other places until they're allowed to. Again, they uploaded those animal faces when they're in a pinch, and some of my other colleagues talked about that. These kids were newbies, and they can customize their virtual world. They were learning. Again, practice, problem solve, and persistence. this is the most fun. Okay, they asked the biologists. They went up on the internet. ASU has a site called Ask the Biologist, and they were answered by some of the professors. And one professor here said, hey, a pest is an animal living when you don't want it. Your neighbor, and maybe your neighbor's pet, your wildflowers can be their weeds. One person's pest is another person's pleasure. Your city and state you live in may have laws as well, and they change over time. So, thus are weeds and pests born. And then Dr. Biology, another site at ASU, Arizona State University, answered the students. So, I would say they are correct not to judge something as a pest or not a pest quickly. Each situation deserves some review before we label them as a pest, a weed, or invasive. So comparison with my other studies, I've done 3 or 4 of them in real life now, as you can see. They were learning the same thing, and it's a battle of the predator and the prey. Again, that was the same school system, but in real life. In conclusions, what is creativity on OpenSim? They were learning a lot about making animals and little different kinds of beings. All this was called kind of flow, according to the educator Chisholm-Mahai. And sometimes it is a difficult process, and the students were learning this. It's not always easy. We have to stretch our mental and physical ability. Virtual world gaming is not mere playing around their learning. It's a challenge. And it's also a way of world making, which is so much fun. So they were learning to become problem solvers and imaginators. What began as a joke about pests, and some of the kids were being a pest in the classroom, they learned that the pests do have their place. A pest is a warning sign and needs to be accommodated, not eradicated. We're learning that creativity never ends in this rapidly changing place, simulated as well as in world, because problem solving is part of the human condition. The biologist Wright explained, the human imagination is this amazing thing. I think this ability probably is one of the most important characteristics. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, thank you. I can't hear anything, but thank you.
Is there anybody with any questions? One there.
Yeah. For this study, the kids were younger. Next year, we're going to do high school kids, same school, volunteers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just looking for any more questions.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. My first time here on the OpenSim with you guys.
Thank you, Mary, for a terrific presentation. As a reminder to our audience, you can see what's coming up on the conference schedule at conference.opensimulator.org. Following the session at 2 p.m. will be Res Meller adding real world spatial content to virtual training exercises to improve their effectiveness. We encourage you to visit the OSCC 15 Poster Expo in the OSCC Expo Region 3 to find accompanying info on presentations and explore the Hypergrid Tour resources in OSCC Expo 2 region along with sponsors and crowdfunder booths located throughout all the OSCC Expo regions. Thank you once again, Mary, for your lovely presentation.
Thank you too. Thank you very much.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah. We
Yep.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Um,
Did Mary drop?
Yes, she just left.
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
think she just dropped stayed out. Probably panicked.
So yeah, we're not broadcasting at the moment. Let me, because I kind of, it's hard for me to remove folks who I can't see in the chat because I can't actually see them. I can't see everybody who's in the chat. I can only see everybody who's in the call. Actually, maybe no, that won't give me that.
Right, actually,
So I'm gonna. I don't think anybody else can remove her, but me. So
Yeah,
I'm just gonna drop the call for a second, and then I'll start it back again. Okay?
So is Res Mailer next, is it?
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
And
I've just been looking at the agenda. The two are swapped round. They were in the wrong order. I was getting very confused.
in the agenda?
Yeah,
looks right to me.
Really? I've got it in OpenSim data. Yeah, it shows Predator and Prey, then Res Mailer, then In Search of Turnkey, which